What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Philly Sports Power Hour. It is a huge honor to have with us now on the show Eagles insider Dave Spadaro. What's up, Dave? How you doing, brother?
Bill, I'm great. It's my honor to be here. Thank you so much. And I'm not worried about, let me just, before we talk Eagles, I'm not worried about the Phillies at all. I mean, that was the whole point of it, to go to Atlanta, win one game, and come back to Philly. So everybody needs to just chill out. Tough loss last night for sure, but this is a really, really good Phillies team. I mean, I feel supremely confident.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you know that Citizens Bank Park, these
Oh,
Philadelphia Phillies fans, they're going to be loud on Wednesday night. So
yes.
I am okay with it. But
Yeah,
thanks for coming to us, Dave, and
my
congratulations are
pleasure.
in order on your recent nuptials, my friend.
Yeah, still married. You only get married twice. So it was awesome though. I mean, 23 years the first marriage, great marriage, still love my ex. But this one, 50-yard line at Lincoln Financial Field was outstanding.
Yeah, I saw some pictures. It looked pretty cool.
It was cool. Yeah.
Looked pretty cool. Well, Dave, you are probably one of the closest people to this Philadelphia Eagles team. And so far through 5 weeks of the season, what have you learned about this 2023 Eagles team?
Well, I like to think that I'm the closest because I'm part of the team. So um, a couple things. One, that last year, when the Eagles said that all through the offseason last year, truly was last year. And while the fans have been kind of like, hey, this part of the team isn't what it was last year, and it's that the Eagles really focused on 2023. And so I think that's really important to note, Bill, because there is a hangover effect in a lot of cases when you go deep into the playoffs. And in the case of the Eagles, go to the Super Bowl and lose such a very tough game, that you don't carry that over to the next season. So really big kudos to Nick Sirianni, the way he approached the offseason and the way these players separated last year and this year, number one. Number two, Jalen Hurts has gotten better and better and better each week. And I think that's really important too. I mean, clearly the game he had on Sunday in Los Angeles I think to me, was the best game he had all season. The week before against Washington, I thought he played really well. That was a better game than the week before that against Tampa Bay. So glad to see that Jalen is getting better and better. Glad to see that the Eagles have replaced Miles Sanders, who really had a Pro Bowl season last year, with DeAndre Swift, a running back by committee here. The Eagles haven't fallen off there. Glad that the right guard position has been adequately filled with Cam Jurgens, and you see depth in the offensive line with Sua Opeta. Glad that the Eagles are still a multi-pronged offense that can beat you in a lot of different ways. And so glad that Dallas Goedert got into it on Sunday against the Rams. Defensively, the front seven, when you lose what the Eagles lost in TJ Edwards and Kaiser White and Javon Hargrave, that you can bring in somebody like Jalen Carter and he makes an immediate, unbelievable impact. I mean, what a talent that kid is, that you can bring in Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham and get productive play there. So really thrilled with the way the defense has replaced key pieces up front. And then in terms of Sean Desai, really impressed with what he did on Sunday in terms of adjusting at halftime and shutting down a really potent Los Angeles Rams offense in the final two quarters. So the Eagles have won games in a lot of different manners here through 2023, the first 5 games, standing undefeated, going to New York, feeling really confident. And I really, really like the makeup of this football team.
You said a lot of great things there, Dave, and I want to go back to the first thing you were talking about, which is Jalen Hurts improving week after week. And we saw he only threw 170 yards against the Patriots, but follows that up with 193 against Minnesota, then 277 against the Bucks, 319 against Washington, and then has another 300-yard game on Sunday against the Rams. But one area that a lot of people were questioning was his ability to run the football this season. And you also saw him running the football more in that Los Angeles Rams game. Do you think that he's lost a step, as some people had indicated? I don't think he has. Or was he just being more conservative and protecting himself those first 4 weeks of the season?
I don't think either of those. I think that defenses are spying him. And I think defenses come into their matchup against the Eagles, and the first thing what they want to do is take away Jalen's ability to break down the defense with his legs. And we've seen in the past, and the games that really stick out to me, Bill, are I remember, I guess it was his first year, right? The Saints came in #1 ranked run defense in the league, and he broke them down with his legs and ended up having a huge game throwing the ball, a huge game running the ball. You know, the Green Bay Packers, the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, games where he's played and run the football effectively. So this year he comes in, and if I'm a defense, what am I going to take away? Well, I have to have cornerbacks to take away Devontae and AJ. I have to have safeties, linebackers to take away Dallas Goedert. But I can scheme to take away the run of Jalen Hurts. And the opportunities just weren't there. Okay. I still think in the red zone, for example, we have not really seen the quarterback draw because I believe in the red zone defenses. That is what they are taking that away. They do not want Jalen Hurts running the football in the red zone. So I thought that on Sunday against the Rams, he made something out of nothing on a couple of occasions, including that third down run where he broke the tackle and gained 17 yards. That was vintage Jalen Hurts. So I don't think he's lost a step. I don't think he's more reluctant to run. I think that defenses are coming in and saying, we are not going to allow Jalen Hurts to beat us with his legs. And so the way the Eagles have won is to run the football with Swift, with Gainwell, throw the football to Brown, to Smith, now to Goddard. And that's how they've won 5 games. And so eventually there will be opportunities for him to run the football. But the mark of a great quarterback is to win in a lot of different ways, including from the pocket and including when times those games when it's really not going your way, finding ways to win games. And Jalen's done that.
Yeah, and you talk about finding ways to win. This Philadelphia Eagles team, 5-0, they've won pretty much a different way all 5 games, which is really a good sign for a good team who's trying to contend for a championship.
Yeah, and I don't think that. I mean, look, we all keep saying the 20 they're leaving points on the field. I think they would agree with that. That the red zone efficiency hasn't been where it had been in the previous 2 seasons. I mean, Eagles were among the best teams in the league, top 3 in the league in the red zone, and now they're down in the 20s. So that will get better, but they have won different ways. I think that is again the mark of a complementary football team. Glad to see that special teams, which nobody's talking about right now, and that's a good thing because the Eagles haven't really gotten the return game going in past years. Now Britton Covey is a weapon. Jake Elliott's been terrific. So the coverage has been pretty strong, right? So I like that. The defense is taking the football away in every game except this last game. So I just think that this is a team that knows how to win. You know, the remarkable thing about it, Bill, is that whether you rate Jalen Hurts on his running and passing, I mean, what's the guy, 22-1 in his last 23 regular season games? I mean, that is amazing. And so at the end of the day, he's a winner, and that's all that matters.
You mentioned 22-1 in his last 23 starts, regular season starts. And do you think we're getting spoiled at Eagles as Eagles fans a little bit? Because we are really watching, and I said this on the show last week, that we need to start enjoying the ride more because what we are watching is unprecedented in Eagles history with how often this team is winning. And it's almost like we're a college team now where we care about how much they win by as opposed to just getting the W.
Well, I mean, I would hope, Bill, that people are enjoying it. I mean, I'm not as tuned into the kvetching that Eagles fans are having. I mean, some of it for sure, but I remember back to the Andy Reid days. I mean, I don't know where you were during the Andy Reid days, Bill, but like that team went to 4 straight NFC championship games. And the fact is, it wasn't enough because the Eagles never won a Super Bowl. And there were times when the Eagles just didn't look that impressive during the regular season, and fans would complain about the team. Look, when I guarantee you, when the Eagles get to late December, and hopefully we're still playing and we're going into January, like playing great football, still playing great football, going into January, still alive in the playoffs, hopefully going to February, you're not going to remember the score of week 4 against the Washington Commanders. All that matters right now is winning games, trying to stay healthy, getting better as you go, and then playing your best football in late December, January, February. I know everybody's kind of going. I've had so many people, Bill, telling me, "Oh my gosh, the 49ers, I'm worried about the 49ers." Well, don't worry in October about the 49ers. Like, appreciate how good they are because they're really, really good right now. But by the time the Eagles play them in December and then potentially late in the playoff situation, who knows what the teams are going to look like. So all you want to do right now is win football games, get better, and I think the Eagles have done that on both sides of the ball and on special teams.
One thing you mentioned was red zone, and this offense has improved every single week in other areas, but they've continued to struggle a little bit in the red zone. Coming into that game, they were 24th in the league, and they were going up against a Rams defense that hasn't been good in the red zone. The Rams were 26th in the league on red zone defense, and the Philadelphia Eagles struggled again in the red zone on Sunday. What do you think the problem is in the red zone right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I really have an educated answer, but I have some observations. You can't take negative plays in the red zone. You can't have penalties in the red zone. You can't miss opportunities to catch football in the red zone. You have to run the football in the red zone. And I think in the past, the Eagles have really run the football well in the red zone, maybe not quite as successfully right now. You got to stay ahead of the sticks. They're not doing that as much as consistently. I guess it comes down to just they haven't been as consistent as they have in previous seasons. It is absolutely something they are aware of and that they are really working to improve on. So I look for that to be, Bill, the next phase of improvement for this football team. As we have seen, we're worried about the Jalen's running. Boom. We're worried about the passing game, gotten better. We're worried about the pass defense, gotten better. We're worried about this, that. We're worried about the red zone offense now. That has to get better. And by the way, the red zone defense has to get better as well. Those are things that I do think through the course of the season will improve.
And you mentioned Nick Sirianni at the beginning of the show, and the culture he's built, that growth mindset, it does seem to really resonate with this team. And like you said, they keep improving every area as the week progresses. And that's what you want. You want a team to keep working towards playing your best football when it really matters in January and February. Hopefully.
Yeah,
February.
and I think, Bill, and I remember his rookie season, when the Eagles struggled, and we wondered about, but not we, but people talking about the fan base wondered about Nick, and fair. And Nick stuck with it. Eagles turned it around. I mean, I could see. I've been around since geez, man, the Buddy Ryan days, and you can see how a coach connects, how the kind of the big picture plan that he has, and I think that's all developed very nicely for Nick. He's a great coach, and the Eagles have a team that plays for each other. He keeps it interesting and fun for the players every single day. They, knock on wood here, they don't have those games. Even during the really good Andy Reid years, there were a couple of games every year where it's like clunkers. The Indianapolis Colts come into Veterans Stadium to I guess it was Lincoln Financial, maybe it been Veterans Stadium, and win games. Uh, Cincinnati Bengals, win game. Like, this team plays good football every single week. I think a lot of that has to do with being excellent on the offensive line, excellent on the defensive line. But what you get every week from a Nick Sirianni team is a team that's focused, that plays really hard, that plays for each other, and that generally is in every single ball game. And so I think that's a sign of a coach who really understands how to bring out the best in his players and how to prepare the football team each week. And it sounds like you should have that every week with your team, but that's not the way it is in the league. You see it every single week. Teams are up and down and up and down. The Eagles have been really good and up virtually every week in the Nick Sirianni era.
He's definitely built a great culture here. And what I love about Sirianni the most is he's genuine. He's not pretending to be somebody he's not. And I know a lot of fans at that first press conference were questioning Sirianni. And when I left his first press conference, I thought to myself, he's going to be loved here if he wins, because this is who he is. He's just a genuine guy, and you see how much he connects with fans. He's high-fiving fans in the stands. Over here in Haddon Township, New Jersey, he's handing out shots in the offseason at a local bar. I mean, he's just
he
he's
enjoys
like
it
us.
too. I mean, and that, Bill, that's what, like, he enjoys being the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. And when you have a coach who's got a loose yet disciplined and high expectation attitude, and that's the daily mantra is, come in and prepare and be great that day, but let's have fun doing it. And I think Nick exudes that kind of energy. Different kind of energy than Andy, different kind of energy than Doug, different than Chip Kelly, different than Ray Rhodes, different than Buddy Ryan, etc. And you're right, he is very genuine and appreciative of the job, and I think the players feel that.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. And keeping with the coaching staff, let's talk about Sean Desai for a second because I felt Sunday was by far his best defensive coordinating we have seen in the young season so far. That Rams offense was a good offense coming in. Number 4 in total yards per game, number 2 in passing yards per game, and they were in the top 10 on third down. And you look at the first half, the Eagles let the Rams convert 5 of 7 on third down. And I'm thinking, okay, more of the same. They come out in that second half and they hold the Rams to 1 for 7 on third down conversions, getting off the field. What did you see, Sean Desai, or was it adjustments made at halftime? Were the players just playing harder? What did they do in that second half to really shut down that Rams offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit it was adjustments, moving in that first half. If you remember, they had Eli Ricks and Roby and Goodrich and Slay working out of the nickel spot, and it was just guys everywhere and just rotating guys. I think they kind of, as Slay said afterward, they kind of went back to basics after the first half and kept it simple. They tackled very well. They got pressure up front, which helped a lot. They had coverage in the back end. They were sticky. That was good. They put the Rams into some long situations, third and long situations. That helped. I also think that the Eagles' offense controlled the football, controlled the clock, held possession for long periods of time. Coming out, though, for the start of the second half to get that stop after the A.J. Brown led late first half drive that put the Eagles back in front 17-14, it allowed the Eagles to continue that momentum generated by that late drive. And so I think the NFL is all about momentum. The Eagles then went on a long drive offensively. I mean, they were able to keep the Rams defense back. And look, up front, we've seen Hassan Reddick get loose here the last couple of weeks with 3 sacks. Jalen Carter has been just terrific and outstanding in the middle. And so when you pressure up front, the Eagles also had some opportunities to take the football away that just didn't quite happen. So they just played really good football. They're getting better defensively. Sean has made good adjustments. It's an NFL, it's an offensive league. The Vikings had some big yards. Washington had some big yards. Credit to Sam Howell, I felt, for escaping 3 or 4 sacks and kept some drives alive. Some penalties kept some drives alive a couple of weeks ago. The Eagles played a sound. They got hurt a couple times with penalties, but otherwise that defense in the second half was the best it had been all season. And let's keep it going against the Jets. And then the schedule gets a lot harder, and we'll see some really great quarterbacks down the line. But as long as the Eagles are sound in their technique, sound in their assignments, getting pressure up front, this defense is going to be fine.
And you mentioned Hassan Reddick having 3 sacks in the last 2 games. Any coincidence that these 3 sacks come right after he gets the cast off?
It is it, and he spoke. I remember Bill in the locker room when he got the cast off that Thursday and practiced without it. He said how much freer he felt, how much looser he felt. Boom, he goes out and gets a sack against Washington. Has a bunch of pressures, are buzzing around the quarterback, and then on Sunday closes out the game with 2 sacks against the Rams. It is not a coincidence at all. It very much had to do with getting the cast off, being able to use his hands. You want to be able to grab jerseys and pull away from your blockers, use leverage and use your hands more. He just wasn't able to use his hands as much, trying to separate from blockers. We've seen him now, just like last year. First 2 games last year, no sacks. Goes to Washington, gets things going. You look up at the end of the season, he's got 16 sacks. Let's hope Hassan keeps it rolling. What a weapon off the edge with what the Eagles have been able to do inside, getting Reddick and Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham on the edge going will make this a really, really dynamic front.
And a lot of people were hopeful that Nolan Smith was baby Reddick. They thought that he was very similar to Hassan Reddick coming out of college. What have you seen from Nolan Smith? Do you expect him to get more playing time as the year progresses?
I mean, that's the hard part. I mean, what have I seen from Nolan Smith is that he's only played a handful of reps each game, so it's really hard to get into any kind of rhythm. I mean, I see somebody who's really hungry, who plays fast, who plays hard, but he's in, then he's out. I think he's played well on special teams. Great effort, great speed. Will he get more time going forward? Not, again, let's hope everybody stays healthy. And I think it's going to be hard to work him into the mix. Maybe a couple of packages here and there, but Who are you taking off the field? You're not taking Reddick off the field when he's rolling like that. Can you play both Reddick and Nolan? I mean, maybe that's something the Eagles look at down the line as he learns the defense, as he learns the NFL. It's a new world up here for defensive players. And that's kind of what makes what Jalen Carter is doing so special. I've seen a lot of defensive linemen come in and struggle through that first year or two. Jalen's coming in and dominating. So I think Nolan will get there. I feel really good about him. Whether that happens this year, whether he gets more reps, I just can't say.
What a luxury. The Philadelphia Eagles lose Javon Hargrave, and then they're able to replace him with rookie Jalen Carter. And before that Rams game, Carter really hadn't played more than 50% of the snaps in any game. But with Fletcher Cox going down, Carter plays 70% of the snaps in that Rams game. And how impressed have you been through 5 weeks with this rookie?
I mean, honestly, Bill, like when the Eagles drafted him, and then watching with some of the scouts, some of his game tape from Georgia, he's just so talented. He's just a special talent. The question was not if he could make it, but how long it would take him to make an impact. And clearly, it hasn't taken him long at all to make an impact. He is enormously talented, fast, strong, great technique, really compact in his technique, really efficient in his technique. Football smart. He stays, he knows his role. He doesn't try to be a hero. He stays in his lane, literally. He knows he's getting double teamed now. He's patient when he has to be. Look, Fletcher Cox was kind of like that back in his day, in his early days, his rookie days. You could see that he was going to be a special player. Fletcher turns out to be an all-decades player in the NFL and potentially, we think, a Pro Football Hall of Famer. I think Jalen Carter is such a talented player, making such an impact, and you just hope it keeps getting better and better and better. That we someday will look and go, hey, this guy's in the Fletcher Cox category. Right now, the Eagles look. To me, when you lose Hargrave, you get improvement from Milton Williams. You get improvement from Jordan Davis. You get impact from Jalen Carter. But Fletcher is playing really good football in that rotation. Kentavis Street plays a little bit here and there, makes an impact. Marlon Tuipulotu has made some plays in his limited time. So the depth at defensive tackle. I mean, the Eagles were down Cox and Tuipulotu. That's two of your top, 5 defensive tackles, and yet the Eagles didn't have a drop-off on Sunday against the Rams. So that speaks to the depth this team has there.
Howie Roseman loves to build this team along the offensive and defensive lines, and we are seeing it with our eyes how good the depth is. You mentioned Sua Opeta stepped in, didn't miss a beat on that offensive line. Fletcher Cox is out. Marlon Tuipulotu's out. Defensive line doesn't miss a beat. I'm seeing in the chat here, people are asking, and I don't know if you know what's going on with this, Dave, but Alberto, the tight end they brought over from the Denver Broncos, we haven't seen him play at all. Do you think he's going to get any playing time? Our tight ends are so good. And I don't think Jack Stoll gets enough credit for how good of a run blocker he has been this season.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fans' questions. And Albert is the mystery man along the lines. We've seen it before. I mean, Jackson was the same way. Tyreek Jackson was the same way with the big body, the athletic player. We're really pining to see him on the field. But again, with what the Eagles have with Goddard and Stoll and Calcaterra, I don't expect Alberto to make any sort of impact unless he's forced to play. With regards to Jack Stoll, I talked to him a couple of weeks ago about becoming a more rounded, all-around tight end. He had a catch the other day. I mean, I know fans really don't notice him or consider him as a receiver, but he has gotten better as a receiver. The Eagles do play a lot of 12 personnel, so he's been instrumental as a blocker, like you said, Bill, in the run game. He's done a very good job there. And Jack Stoll, an undrafted player who's all of a sudden been here 3 years, and he's playing a lot of reps in the offense. And as an unsung player, deserves some credit for the success the Eagles have had on offense. But as far as Alberto goes, he's a talented kid, but I haven't seen what I see, in practice is very, very limited. Scout team guy. I would kind of hope that we don't see him. Honestly, that would mean that all 3 tight ends in front of him stay healthy.
And I'm going to have to ask you your opinion on this. I hate even talking about this because I think it's so overblown mainly
Oh,
because
wait,
of
let me guess. The brotherly shove.
you nailed it.
Yeah.
You nailed it. So what is your thoughts about this brotherly shove, the tush push, really just a quarterback sneak that there's
Yep.
all this media talk about it needs to be
Yep.
banned?
So the Eagles Super Bowl's over. The next step is going to the combine. And I remember in Indianapolis standing in front of Mike McDaniel, the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, and somebody asked him about back then it wasn't called the brotherly shove, it was called the tush push. And Mike McDaniel's a very quirky guy. Really, really enjoy him. Very smart guy. And he was kind of like, okay, media, like, so is anything illegal about this play? No. Do you not like the way it looks? Like, what is your issue with this play? Is it not aesthetically pleasing to you? And Mike was like, like fake slam the gavel. He goes, I have no problem with it. And then in the spring, after that, the NFL's competition committee at the annual meeting, along with the owners, GMs, coaches, they have an opportunity to discuss the play and should they vote on the play and should the play be outlawed? Should the play be banned? And I don't even think it came up for a vote. And so the league had an opportunity then to address the play, to eliminate the play. The league decided not to. There's nothing illegal about the play. So the Eagles just happened to run it really well. I remember against a couple weeks ago, Washington. Eagles run it. It's a big story then. I happened to come back to my office after the game. I watched the Chargers play the Raiders, I think, and the Chargers got stopped late in the game on the tush push. Then the Giants try it and get two guys hurt. I think last night the Raiders may have run it, or I'm not sure if it was the Raiders or the Packers ran it successfully. Like, hey, go ahead and run it. The Eagles just run it really well. The offensive line gets down low. They get great push. Jalen has strong legs. Jalen doesn't get hit hard. There are players who are pushing him in the back, but I think a lot of times he makes it on his own. So I don't get this. I thought this was the big story last year. I don't know why it's still being a topic of conversation, other than our team's jealous. Do defensive teams hate it? Defensive players hate it. I spoke to Ike Reese, and he was all, I don't like it because I shouldn't be around because I'm a defensive player and you can't stop it. Well, teams are stopping it. It's just that the Eagles run it better than other teams. So the Eagles are going to continue to run it. And if the league wants to address it at the annual meeting in the spring in Florida, they can do it. But until then, it is a legal play. And if you don't like it, then learn to run it as well as the Philadelphia Eagles are running it.
Couldn't agree with you more, Dave. And in the chat here, we have Wheel of Sports on 88 saying if the NFL bans it, he's canceling all of his NFL subscriptions. So,
Well, I mean, the NFL is not going to ban it unless the competition committee votes, and that's a vote of coaches and general managers and owners to ban it. Otherwise, it's a legal play. It's not a point of emphasis in any respect other than the way they're lining up. And we saw Landon Dickerson get called for that neutral zone infraction, which was really interesting. But it's a legal play, just as if a runner has the football and players are pushing him, a running back has it. That's the same thing. So you just can't pull, but you can push. And the Eagles are going to continue to use it. I think they were 4 of 5 on the play on Sunday, and it's like 49 out of 54 chances or whatever it is over the last few years here. Keep it in. It's a dynamite play on short yardage.
it really is. It
And I
really
would
is.
love to win the Super Bowl. I would love to win the Super Bowl with 130 million people watching. And last play of the game, goal line play, Jalen Hurts gets into the end zone on the brotherly shove. Oh, wouldn't that be sweet?
That would be
That would be
sweet.
so
I
sweet.
would sign up for that. And you saw it on Sunday, end of the half, only 2 seconds left, ball at the 1 yard line. That's the final play of the half there. No question about it. We're not kicking a field goal. We're going
I mean,
brotherly shove.
I can't imagine anybody would thought, okay, let's play it safe here and kick a field goal. No way. If the Rams had stopped the Eagles there, all kudos to them. But to me, there was no other play than to go for it and to call that play. And of course, it was successful.
And we were talking about Nick Sirianni to start, about the culture he's built, the growth mindset. I also love his aggressiveness. I actually did a video on my Instagram before the show today, just talking about how some coaches in that situation, 32 seconds left, your own 25-yard line, down 14-10, may have said, let's be conservative and get to the locker room. They stay aggressive and they put up 7 points before the half. That was a huge momentum swing.
Yeah, and same with I guess it was was it the Vikings game, the 61, or no, that was whatever it was. I think it was the Vikings game when Jake had the 61-yard field goal, right? So yeah, aggressive, different kind of play though. Eagles ran the football late in that first half then, and as a kind of an example of how much improved the passing game has become, Eagles make big plays in the passing game on Sunday. So I love the versatility. I agree with you. I love the aggressiveness of Nick. He's been that way since day one, shows a lot of confidence in his players. And this is when you're on defense going against the Philadelphia Eagles, you have to prepare to play against a 4-down mentality. That's kind of what the Eagles are.
But before I let you run, Dave, I need to talk a little bit about this upcoming Sunday against the New York Jets. I know a lot of fans are confident that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to move to 6-0. But what do you think concerns you about that Jets team? And I don't know if you'd give predictions, but what your prediction would be for Sunday.
Well, I don't do predictions per se, but I mean, I predict the Eagles will win. Surprise, surprise. Look, I think the Jets have a terrific defense. Really excited to see the matchup of their cornerbacks and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I think that's terrific. I think their front is excellent. I think they run the football really well. Brees Hall's outstanding football player. I mean, the Jets lost their right tackle, Vera Tucker. That is a big, big loss for them. So I give the Eagles defensive front an advantage against the Jets. So I don't know what the game plan is. Look, it's been run one week, throw the next week. Where do you attack an outstanding Jets defense? That's what they're doing right now. That's what they're trying to put together right now. And I feel like, Sauce Gardner and A.J. Brown, Sauce Gardner and Devontae Smith, I mean, that is price of admission matchups. I think the weather might be a little tricky with cold and rainy potentially. So we'll see how that plays out. But man, I think the Eagles are a better football team. I think the Jets had an emotional win on Sunday against Denver. So we'll see how they come back against the Eagles. But to me, don't go into this game any bit overconfident. Don't go into this game thinking it's going to be a cakewalk. The schedule coming up after that is really, really hard. We know it. So you want to bank every single win that you can. Go in there, play confident football, play physical Eagles football. Don't turn the ball over. And Philadelphia should come out with a win and get to 6-0, which would put this team in great, great shape in the NFC East.
Awesome stuff, Dave. I can't thank you enough. Hopefully we'll have you on the show again soon.
My pleasure.
Go Birds, my man. I'll
Go
talk to you
Birds,
soon.
Bill. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it, and let's get a win on Sunday. And thanks to all the Eagles fans because your support is so appreciated. What has happened every week when we're on the road is incredible. When we're at Lincoln Financial Field, there's no greater home field advantage. So it's a village, and we're all in it together. And everybody just enjoy the ride. It's going to be a great one.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that was Dave Spadaro, our Eagles insider. Some really good stuff from Dave. Want to close out the show, give you guys a reminder. I host another show called the Legal Hands to the Face Show